this is Athena's Bibliotheca. And I'm really excited about today's video because it's one of my favorite videos to watch, and that is videos about annotating. I don't have any set system on how I annotate. It's just whatever I feel like in that moment that I pick up a book and start reading. So in this video, I'm going to just talk through how I annotate. It's both ways in which I annotate not marking up the book and ways I do mark up the book. But first I want to talk about the different supplies I use. I don't always use all of these supplies. I use a mixture of them depending on how I've decided that I'm annotating the book I'm currently annotating. First, I'll talk about the tabs, which are something that most people think of when they think of annotating, is the tabs people use. I don't remember what brand they are. I'm almost certain I got them from Amazon a while ago, but these are some of the tabs that I use, like these colorful tabs. I also use these tabs sometimes as well. These ones I don't use as often as these ones now because I like tabbing by the cover of the book a lot of the times, and these don't always match the cover, but it's whatever. I wish I could get all these colors with like this type of tab where it's like white on one end and there's just the color on the other end. I like that way of tabs better than it being a full color tab, but that's just me personally. There's also those tabs that have like a little circle at the end for the color and the rest is white. I do not like those tabs. They annoy me so much. But those are the tabs I am normally using if I am using tabs at all to annotate my books. The next thing I'm going to talk about is pens. For black pens, I usually have two that I go to. This one, so there's the one which is the Papermate Inkjoy pen. I don't know if you can see that, but there's the Papermate Inkjoy pen, which I very much enjoy if I want a black pen. But majority of the time, if I'm just using a black pen to annotate, or if I want to use a black pen at all in my annotation, I'm usually going with the Sharpie S-Gel pen. I have a 0.5, but I've also used a 0.35, I think, as well. I don't know. It's just whatever point is closest to me, whatever size is closest to me, or that I can find is what I'm using. In this case, I have a 0.5, but there's smaller sizes of the nib, if you would like. If I want to use colored pens in whatever way I would like to use colored pens, I use the same, I use Papermate Inkjoy gel pens, but just the colored version instead of just black. So I have a few of them. I need to get more because I think the red one was the one that's running out, but you can find these at like Dollar General or whatever. Some Dollar Generals have like individual that you can just pick up one if you run out, which is nice. I don't really use any other types of pens, but if I don't have those pens available, I'll probably pick up whatever pen I have, I guess. But those are my go-tos if I want color or any kind of pen for my annotating. And then finally, I am basic when it comes to the highlighter. I just have mild liner markers. I love these. I don't have any complaints. They're fine. I have a 15 pack, but technically all the colors that are in this 15, there's like a couple that I bought individually and I just switched out what came in with this 15 pack because I like those colors more. But 15, there's plenty of colors and I have plenty of variety. And what I like about the mild liner is that it has the chisel tip that you mostly see with highlighters, but then on the other end it also has a fine point tip. So like if I just wanted to use a highlighter in my annotating, I have a end that just highlights and an end that underlines if I would like, if I want that option. I don't I don't think I've actually just used a highlighter in annotating yet, but it is a possibility. And I know when I have used a highlighter, I've used both ends before to either underline or highlight. So those are the supplies that I'm normally using with annotation. I will say that I don't annotate every book I read. That's just not. Sometimes I just don't want to annotate. I don't want to take the time. And then sometimes it's either not a book I want, like if it's a library book or it's on, actually if it's an ebook, I usually highlight because you can highlight with Kindle. If it's an ebook, I usually are highlighting stuff, but other than that, it's just whatever I feel like in the moment when I start a book. It's just vibes, guys. It's just vibes. There's no very real reason whether I annotate or not. I will say that annotating a nonfiction is probably something when I read nonfiction I'm gonna hopefully do more of, because it's easier to like pinpoint what you learned in nonfiction. So this next section of the video is going to be me showing you examples of the ways I annotate, and I've ordered them into like what supplies I use to do the annotating. So this first little grouping of books that I want to show you is actually the first way I annotated, and that is just with tabs. I didn't use highlighters or pens, I just used tabs. The first book I annotated was Graceling by Kristen Kishore, and this book doesn't have the tabs that I use now, but it has just white tabs, just white post-it notes, and there's not very many of them, but that's fine. And this is technically not what I originally annotated this book with. I went back and took out what I used before and replace them. I have the second book that I annotated. I used the same system I used the first time on Graceling, and that is for Library of Souls by Ransom Riggs. And I used, because this is all I had at the time, because I just wanted to see if I liked annotating, so I just used what I had. I didn't want to go out and buy something if I didn't need to. And I had these little mini post-its. They don't really work very well for annotating, I will admit. If I were to go back in time, I would have been like, why don't you just cut them into smaller lines? I feel like that would make your life easier, but I didn't do that back then. So I have big tabs, post-it notes, because that is what I had, or like mini post-it notes. Another example of just tabs is how I annotated The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, and I did annotate way more, and I'm using the neon tabs that I had, so you can see there's just the light blue at the end. And also in this book I have a annotation key, which I didn't in those first two I showed you. This one I actually started with just 3 things I wanted to annotate, and then the further we got in the book, I kept on seeing something and I added a tab later, which you can do if you so choose to, because it's your annotation. No one's gonna stop you for changing up your way you do it. And then this is one of the examples I have where I decided to match the annotating to the cover, which is something I am more likely to do now than I did when I first started. And I really enjoy it. I think it looks so much better when you match the cover to the book. And that is how I annotated A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. It is so much fun it just looks so much better, in my opinion, to annotate with tabs that match the cover. It just looks so pretty, in my opinion. And am I doing it for anything else but the aesthetic? I don't think so. But in this one, I did use a tabbing system, and I put a tab in it, and I wrote on the tab with that specific tab mat. And I may not have enjoyed this book as much as I thought I was going to, But I do very much enjoy how my annotations came out. So the next one is the book that I annotated most recently, and that is Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft. When I annotated Wings of Starlight, I knew I wanted to annotate because I had so much high expectations for this. I knew I was going to want to remember things. But I also knew that I was going to want to fly through this book, which is accurate. So I decided just to annotate with one pen. So I mostly just underlined and I wrote a little bit in the margin sometimes. Let's see if I can find you. And I really enjoyed doing this type of annotation because it's a very simple way to annotate. You just need a pen. It's not that much to carry around, and it's very easy to underline real quick and jot down whatever your thought is that you want to keep in the book. Also, I would like to mention that I don't annotate a whole lot in my books. I feel like I very rarely cover a whole page with annotation, which is fine and is allowed. No one should be policing the way that you annotate. It's supposed to be fun, and if you're not having fun, then change it up, or maybe annotation is just not for you, which is also fine. So there's pages where I don't annotate anything. It's fine. You don't have to annotate every page. PSA over for that. But I really enjoyed annotating this way. Even if I didn't put any tabs in it now when I first annotated it, I can always go back if I decide that I want to put some tabs in there as well. I can always go back and add them later. There's nothing stopping me from doing that except for my own ambition. I just can see myself doing just the pen in future annotations because it was just a very easy way to do annotations. The next book I have to show, I actually didn't. It was a reread of Hush Hush. Started this annotation. The reason I say started is I never actually finished my reread. I don't know what exactly happened. I remember liking my reread. I'm not recommending this book to you. This is definitely a nostalgic fave for me, and so I wanted to reread it. Would it hold up now? No. I don't even have to finish my reread of that to know that it probably wouldn't hold up now. But I have fun with it, and so we're here. In this book, I just used a pen and a highlighter, and so it looks sort of like this. So some of the lines are underlined with a pen, I have some markings in the margins, and I have highlighted parts. Also, I used a black pen and a gray highlighter because of the cover being black and gray. Most of my more recent annotations are going to be based off the cover because, as I said before, I just really enjoy that. I think it looks better. But that's another example. Another way that I annotate books is through just tabs and a pen. And one of those examples for you is A Capitalism of Ghost Story by Arundhati Roy. Definitely a rough read, even if it's short. There's a lot of harsh things that you're learning about in this book because it's a nonfiction about capitalism in India. And, capitalism, always a great thing to learn. Always great things when you talk about capitalism. But I just underlined passages, and if I decided that I liked the passage enough, I guess, if I thought I would go back to it, I would put a tab. And again, it's black, so I used black pen and a gray tab color, and it's beautiful. Anyways, that's another example. One of my favorite annotations is for A Dowry in Blood. I'm so happy that I decided to annotate this book when I did because it became one of my favorite books of all time when I read it. And if you don't know, A Dowry in Blood is about vampires, so I used red tabs and I underlined things in red pen because of course I did. that's just how it's done. But anyways, red pen, red tabs, and it's gorgeous. I love it a lot. I think it's beautiful, but the only downside to this book is deckled edges. I don't like deckled edges personally. I want to chop them off every time I have them, but I love this book so much that I'll give it a pass. The next example I have for you is for using tabs and highlighters, which is very similar to tabs and pens, just using highlighter instead of a pen. Very revolutionary, I know. My example for this is Always Practice Safe Text by Juliet Cross. I love the series a lot, so much. It's such a fun series. So my tabs, beautiful. This one, I actually chose highlighters that match the tabs, and I did do a key, if I can find it. So here's my annotation key, and then, so like, there's a yellow tab, and I highlighted in yellow. Obviously, I did not have a pink highlighter, so I used a red highlighter at this time, but here's a blue tab. I highlighted it in blue, which is something else I really like to do. It's just a lot. It's just more work to do it that way because you have like way more annotation supplies with you when you're reading, and you have to like grab the right highlighter and stuff. It's not that much of a big of a deal. I really do like when I am able to do that, and I was able to do it with this one, which is fantastic, and I really like the way this annotation turned out. The next one is my I Go All Out section. So I use all of the supplies. So I use the tabs, I use the highlighter, and I use the pen. My first example of this is for when I did a reread of Throne of Glass, and I highlighted and tabbed this. I don't know how people will feel about that because this is the old cover, but I did it. It's mine, so I can do what I want. This one also had a annotation key, and I highlighted the colors, so like I had multiple colored highlighters as well. Oh, I forgot I did that. So at the end, if I can find one now that it's gone. So like every so often I would put a big post-it note and talk about what happened in the previous part. I don't do this very often. I don't think I've ever done it since, actually. So like it's probably, I don't do this. It's a good idea in theory, but I did not like writing them. So I just didn't continue to do that in any other book. Maybe I will do it again later, try it out again, but I didn't really like doing this, so you know. But I do like that I have an annotated copy of Throne of Glass. I just laugh because the further I get into a book, the less annotation there is because I get more excited and I'm like, I'm not stopping. But yes, so this is a color coded key, has a key, and all the highlighters match. And I didn't actually do very much with the pen except for at the start, so maybe I did a little pen annotation at the start, like on this page, but it is less and less as the book goes on, unless you count the post-it notes where I continued through the end of the book. But anyways, that's my first. And then The Blonde Identity is definitely actually I went all out sort of book. I knew when I first heard about this book because I really enjoy Allie Carter. I love her stuff like she did before this book. Like the stuff before she announced this title, I was already reading her and I really enjoyed it, and I was excited that she was coming out with an adult romance. I was super excited, especially a spy novel. If you know anything about her backlash books, I was really excited about her spy novel. Anyways, but I obviously, since I went all out, I matched the cover I matched the tabs to the cover, but I also did this thing where like I spaced them out really evenly, like it just looks really nice. They also, it is, if I can find where I put it, oh, there it is. I also color each color is, there's a key for the colors, and I just used a black pen, but I matched the highlighter color to the tab color. Beautiful. There's the more annotations. I love it so much. It makes me so happy. Like, some more annotations. I just really love this a lot. Also, love this book. Highly recommend if you want a spy adult novel and if you don't care about the amnesia trope. Because this book is amnesia. You start off with a girl waking up and not knowing who she was. So, take that as you will. I had a great time. One of these days I'll get to the sequel, because I really want to get to the sequel. And I'll probably do the same type of annotation as I did in this book. I think that's all of the examples I have for you. I can't think of anything else that I wanted to talk about, but I hope you enjoyed this video because I really like annotating. I wish I would do it more often. There's definitely been books I've read and have regretted not annotating it because I enjoyed them so much. You know how it is. Sometimes you can't tell. Most of the time, if I'm not 100% sure I will enjoy a book, I go in with just tabs. But, you know, most of the time though, if I want to annotate a book, it's a book that I'm already expecting I will enjoy. So there's that. Well, hopefully you found something of inspiration of your next way to annotate. As I've shown, I annotate in a multitude of ways. So there's a multitude of ways for you to annotate as well. And also, just because you annotate it one way, if you want to change it up the next book, no one's stopping you. No one's forcing you to keep with the same system in all your books. But if that is something that seems more appealing to you, go ahead. No one is stopping you from doing that either. I just think that most of the time when I see an annotation video, it's usually a lot of, or at least it used to be. It's not as bad now, or it's not as prevalent now, but a lot of the times when I used to see annotation videos, they're always like, I use this tabs, I use these pens, and I use these highlighters, and I use this system for annotation key every single book. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But I like changing it up anyway, because it's just funner for me. I hope you had fun with looking at my different ways of annotating, and I hope you found something that seems like something that you would like to do and when you annotate next. But that is all I have for you today. I hope to see you soon, but I make no promises. Bye.